Hey there, viewers! Who would you rather be with? Someone ultra successful but rude? Or someone who's polite, modest, and charming? The majority of us would want to be with someone charming, right? But how do you become charming? Can trying too hard make you seem creepy? In today's video, we'll talk about ways to become charming. Should you be agreeable? How can you develop social skills? Why does name dropping have a negative impact on your image? Why shouldn't you be afraid to be a little vulnerable? We'll talk about all of these and more. Look for a way to agree. What kind of conversationalist are you? Do you find yourself arguing a lot? I'm afraid this is killing your vibe, my friend. If you want to be charming, you have to find a way to agree with people. This doesn't mean you have to agree with everything you hear. It's unlikely everyone will be in agreement during a conversation. I mean, there will always be opposing views. But charming people are not actively looking to disagree. Instead, they look for points where all parties can agree. They would rather form some sort of unity around the table than see things erupt into a fight. It's not an easy habit to develop. It can be so tempting to speak up when you hear something you disagree with. We love to say our piece, especially when we know for a fact that people are wrong about something. To be charming, it's important to find common ground with others. It's much more useful than getting into an argument. Great social skills. So many of us think social skills mean holding an audience's attention. While that is one part of it, there's another side to it. You also should encourage the rest of your group to talk as well. I don't mean you force them to speak. That's not going to do any good. Charming people ask open-ended questions that make others feel free to open up. They're also genuinely interested in knowing about people. When someone tells you something about themselves, follow up with interesting questions. It makes the other person feel you're sincere in the interest you're showing. They will feel good about themselves, since they now know you care about what they have to say. There are other ways to develop good social skills. Empathy plays a very important role in connecting with others. It also helps identify common interests. Respect others' ideas, try understanding their emotions, and feel comfortable providing your own insights. You can start developing your social skills by engaging in small talk. Ask people how their day is going, what they've been up to, and what their plans are. It's important to maintain eye contact during conversations. Hold eye contact for 3 to 5 seconds each time you engage with someone. This increases your trustworthiness and lets the other person know you're interested in listening to them. This brings us to listening skills. Being an active listener can increase your likability. It tells the other person you're invested in what they have to say. This makes them feel important. Allow others to feel comfortable sharing their ideas. Use nonverbal communication cues like nodding to show you're actively listening. Another way to build relationships and hone your social skills is to invite your friends over for lunch or coffee. Connect with people on a one-to-one level. No name dropping. We all have at least one friend who cannot stop talking about the time they met a particular celebrity. Some people have a tendency to drop the names of popular people into conversations as a way to get attention. This gets irritating pretty quickly. Don't be that person. You can be charming without name dropping in your social circles. Resist the urge to one-up everyone in your group. Otherwise, people are going to loathe you. Charming people may know a few famous people, but their charm lies in the fact that they don't bring it up in conversation. They only do that if there is a clear need to bring it up. It doesn't mean that you keep these names a secret and keep social circles separate. You should only bring up names of popular people when it's relevant. Don't be afraid to be a little vulnerable. Most of us want to keep our vulnerabilities hidden. When you meet someone, your first instinct would be to talk about your success rather than your failures. But charming people don't worry about showing their vulnerabilities. They don't try to one-up people they're meeting. Instead, they pour compliments on the other person for all their achievements. These people will also admit when they've failed at something. This is because they know that while success stories are interesting, being genuine is as well. They're so confident they don't mind discussing 1 or 2 things they got wrong. This leads us to the next point. Admit mistakes. Another characteristic of charming people is their ability to admit any mistakes they may have made. Even if that means they're a laughingstock for others, they're fine with it. If anything, they join in on the laughter. Most people don't do this because they're afraid to look silly. They assume people will only respect them if they've always been a success. But that's not the case when it comes to winning people over. In fact, when someone is willingly admitting their mistakes and laughing along, people tend to have more respect for them. They soon feel comfortable dropping their own guard. They understand that it's okay admitting their faults in the company of someone who won't judge them. Mistakes are part of life. It's impossible to be completely perfect without making any mistakes whatsoever. To own up to those mistakes and be able to laugh about it is a great gift. Remember names. How many times have you met a person for a second or third time but can't remember their name? It happens to most of us. It can get a bit embarrassing asking them their name again. It gets even more uncomfortable when you continue the relationship without knowing. Believe me, it happens. How about when you realize the other person doesn't remember your name? That's probably even more uncomfortable. You realize you haven't made enough of an impression on the other person to even remember your name. It can hurt your ego. But people who come off as charming have this important trait. They're always great at remembering names. It's a fantastic feeling when someone greets you by your name, even if the two of you have only met for a couple of times. Charming people also make sure they remember small details. If there was something interesting you mentioned the last time you met, they will bring it back up. They show they haven't forgotten you and remember your interests and ambitions. It makes you want to be in their company longer. They're genuinely happy to meet you. When you first meet a person, you're likely smiling just for the sake of being polite, unless you're meeting with some close friends. Most meetings are formalities you simply have to go through, but that's not how charming people do things. A charming person is genuinely happy to see you. They always maintain eye contact and make you feel welcome. They're genuinely interested in what you're saying. A good smile can really win people over. After all, you feel really uncomfortable when someone doesn't look like they're happy to see you. A charming person will really brighten your day. The power of touch. Touching people in an undesired way is a big no-no, especially in a way that's sexual or perceived as sexual. But this doesn't mean you have to completely avoid physical touch. Charming people, for instance, use the power of touch in a non-sexual way to make the other person feel good. A simple example would be congratulating people. Shaking hands in a congratulatory way and putting a hand on their shoulder goes a long way in showing your sincerity. A non-sexual touch can make someone feel comfortable in an awkward situation. They pass the waiter test. You can tell a lot about someone by how they treat servers in a restaurant. These people are working around the clock to feed complete strangers. Treating them poorly is a massive turnoff. Most people are great when the opposite party is perceived to be on their level or higher, but they don't appreciate people who are rude and obnoxious towards others, especially when they're serving you. A person's social skills are on display during these times. Charming people treat everyone equally. They show them respect and kindness. When they're ordering from a server, they're polite and patient, even when the service is not up to par. Talk less, listen more. Charming people also tend to talk less. They're much more interested in listening to what you have to say. Talking too much can make it seem like you're high on yourself. A charming person is already aware of what they know. They want to listen to what you have to say and the things you've experienced. When you see someone who's generally interested in what you're saying, it makes you feel important. You want to spend more time with these people. They don't take up all the limelight for themselves. They're happy and optimistic. Charming people try to look on the bright side of things. Of course, it's not good to be unrealistically optimistic, but you don't always want to see the glass half empty. A person who's constantly negative and putting others down is not somebody people want to spend time around. If they do spend time around you, it'll be in small doses, as too much time with you can make them feel depressed. They feel almost as if you're dragging them down with you. Instead, be the person who's happy and fun. Being charming isn't difficult as long as you're happy on the inside, but stress and anxiety can impact your inner peace. Let's keep the conversation going with a couple more videos, shall we? Here's what you need to know. Check out 11 silent signs of stress that are killing you slowly. Or how about 5 foods to avoid if you have anxiety? Go ahead, click one, or better yet, watch both and learn more about how your body works. Do you think you're charming? Is there a charming person you love being around? Let us know in the comments below.